What's up, muscle car lovers? My name is Butterfly Jones, and I'm going to talk to you today about street racing. I'm going to give you 5 simple rules that I follow to stay safe on the roads when you are racing a competitor on these streets. Stay tuned. So earlier today, TMZ reported that entertainer PnB Rock got into a high-speed collision after racing his BMW against a Rolls-Royce Wraith in Hollywood, California today. And they said that he was intoxicated, so he was booked for a DUI. And that brings up a good topic that I like to discuss. As I am a person who likes to street race. That's my thing. I like to do that. So I encounter a lot of people who want to challenge me. I drive a Camaro. My moniker is Camaro Queen, and I really have a so-called need for speed. At the same time, safety is so important to me, and so I just want to go over a few safety tips that I follow because I think that in any game you have to follow a few rules. You have to have a code that you follow. And while this list could be a mile long, I'm going to keep it to 5 simple tips. And so my number one rule for racing is if the weather conditions are not right, you don't race. When it comes to sports cars and muscle cars, you do not have traction like you do with an all-wheel drive vehicle. You are dealing with rear-wheel drive. You are dealing with a different type of tires. You're just dealing with a different type of handling. That's number one. Number two, if you are dealing with temperatures that are near or at freezing, you are dealing with the possibility of hydroplaning. I live in Illinois, where even if the temperatures are about 40 degrees, because the pavement is often, wet, because snow is often melting at that temperature, it is very dangerous to race anytime in the winter months. So that is a rule that I have, that I do not race unless the streets and the pavement are completely dry, which means that we cannot have had any kind of precipitation anytime near when I am attempting to race. Do people try to race me all the time in the winter? Yes. Am I going to race you at this time of year? Hell no. Rule number 2. If you do not have clearance, meaning that if you are at a stoplight and someone wants to race you and you are not the first 2 cars lined up at the stoplight and there's no one in front of you, do not race. Trying to dip around another car and race is just not where it's at. What I do is I race only when the 2 cars are lined up together at the light. You have time to meet each other at the next light. You guys can line up at that time. You can make sure that you have a quarter-mile clearance in certain areas, especially where I live, and make sure that you are at least as safe as you can be. So that's my number 2 rule. Make sure that you have clearance and that you're not trying to race around another vehicle in order to come in first place. Rule number 3, just like boxing, stay in your weight class. Know what kind of car you have, know what your car can do, and stay in your lane. Literally, if you have a Camaro like I have and a certain kind of horsepower, you are just not going to beat a Corvette with a 1200 horsepower. It's not going to happen. In your wildest dreams, it's not going to happen unless you have done some serious modifications underneath the hood. So what you need to do is learn about cars so that when you look at a car or someone pulls up next to you and they want to race, you can do a cursory glance and kind of know, looking at the car, if this car is within your weight class. Because you can ruin your vehicle trying to attempt a race that is not even a possibility for you. That's my third rule. My fourth rule: never race high or drunk. Now that may seem obvious, but a lot of people get courage when they get high and when they get drunk. But racing is something that's got to be in you. It can't be on you. And if you need a substance to give you the courage to take on somebody else, you really don't need to be in this lifestyle. Street racing is only for the bold, and it's only for the people that have it in their blood. And so leave it to people like myself. If you need a bottle or you need a smoke in order to take on a challenger, don't even attempt to race somebody on these streets. You're going to hurt somebody, you're going to cause an accident, you're going to hurt yourself. And even though the whole act of street racing is illegal, taking certain risks, like adding a substance to that, makes it even more of a ridiculous concept. And I just make that a list, put that on my list of things not to do. Lastly, and of course, I could keep going with this list, but my last rule is race by yourself. When you're going to street race, putting another person at risk, to me, is irresponsible. If you're going to take on somebody else, I don't care how with it your passengers are, unless it's your husband or your wife, somebody who is legally bound to you. I really think it is irresponsible to have that person in the car with you and take a life or death risk with them. Not only that, on a speed tip, when you put extra weight in the car that you're not used to having, then you're taking on another risk, because you're not used to handling your car at an accelerated speed with the additional weight on the other side. And so that's another rule that I would definitely follow. I hope you enjoyed these tips. Remember, street racing is illegal, but it is an old pastime, and it will continue to be a pastime for those of us who love speed and need it in our lives. If it's in your blood, the best thing that you can do for yourself, for your family, and everybody else on the road is at least take as many precautions as you can. Wear your seatbelt. Make sure you have clearance, have the right conditions. You don't have to take every race. You don't have to take on every challenger. Make sure your car is in the right condition, and make sure you stay in your lane and in your weight class. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and share. Again, I'm Butterfly Jones, aka the Camaro Queen. See you players on the road.